Na środku bezkresnego Oceanu Spokojnego, tysiące kilometrów od najbliższych lądów, leży najbardziej odosobniona zamieszkała wyspa świata. Rapa Nui, znana nam jako Wyspa Wielkanocna. Ale to nie tylko skrawek wulkanicznej ziemi. To żywe muzeum cywilizacji, która rzuciła wyzwanie niemożliwemu. To tutaj, w izolacji od reszty ludzkości, narodziła się kultura pełna zagadek, potężnych bóstw i monumentalnych posągów, które od dziś milcząco strzegą tajemnic swoich twórców. Zapraszam Was na podróż do pępka świata, gdzie kamienie opowiadają historię o potędze, upadku i duchowym odrodzeniu. Naszą wyprawę rozpoczniemy na krawędzi świata, w wiosce Oronogo, zawieszona między kraterem wulkanu Rano Kau a przepaścistym klifem, była niegdyś sercem dramatycznych rytuałów. To tutaj nad huczącym oceanem narodził się kult człowieka-ptaka, Tangata Manu. Spójrzcie na te niskie kamienne domy w kształcie łodzi. To w nich wodzowie oczekiwali na znak, by wysłać swoich wojowników po pierwsze jajo Manutarły. Oronogo to miejsce, gdzie historia spotyka się z brutalną siłą natury, a wryte w skałach petroglify wciąż przypominają o dawnych ceremoniach. Schodząc z wiecznych klifów, udamy się na miejsce, które rzuca zupełnie inne światło na kunszt dawnych budowniczych. Przed nami Wina Pau. To tutaj odnajdziemy najbardziej zagadkową konstrukcję na wyspie, platformę Ahua Tahira. Jej precyzyjne dopasowanie, potężne bloki skalne przypominają murarkę inkarskich mistrzów z odległego Peru. Czy to dowód na prehistoryczne kontakty między kontynentami, czy może szczyt inżyniernego geniuszu wyspiarzy? Winapu to cisza, surowość i perfekcja, która od wieków wprawia archeologów w osłupienie. Na koniec opuścimy wybrzeże i skierujemy się w głąb lądu, ku jedynemu w swoim rodzaju sanktuarium. Ahu Akivi to z 7 potężnych wędrowców wykutych w kamieniu. W przeciwieństwie do niemal wszystkich innych muai na wyspie, te posągi nie patrzą na wioski, lecz w stronę oceanu. Legenda mówi, że przedstawiają oni 7 zwiadowców wysłanych przez króla, by odnaleźli nowy dom. Ale Ahu Akivi to także precyzyjne obserwatorium astronomiczne. Podczas równonocy muai patrzą dokładnie tam, gdzie zachodzi słońce, łącząc Ziemię z kosmosem. Przygotujcie się na spotkanie z legendą. Zaczynamy naszą wędrówkę przez serce Rapa Nui.
Of the crater story, but also traditional plants, for example mahute, which is a very important plant that we use to make fabric for clothes, traditional clothes, or matu'abua, which is a medicinal plant that is all around the world used for organ transplantations. So that was one very important reason our ancestors called this place very sacred, right? The other was, obviously, as you can see, you have a large amount of fresh water inside of the crater. All of the water is rainwater. It's around 10 meters deep, and the crater is 1.2 kilometers wide on the bottom and 1.6 kilometers wide on the top, where we're standing right now. So, back in time of our ancestors, as we have no rivers in Rapa Nui, this was a very, very important place because of a lot of fresh water and the microclimate they used to harvest important crops in Rapa Nui. It was also a sacred place because it was the starting point of the competition of the Tangata Manu, the Birdman competition. This was a competition that was established by our ancestors around the 17th century after the cult of our ancestors, the Moai cult. Maybe you saw some of that yesterday, right? So after the decline of the Moai cult, a new system was needed to organize our society and to divide power, to divide resources, and to also name a new head of the island. This is why the competition of the Tangata Manu was created. So, the competition started in Mataveri, which is at the bottom of this volcano. They had a big procession, a big reunion to say who is going to be part, which young men are going to participate, which we call the Hopu Manu. They are not going to become the Tangata Manu, the birdmen. They were only the soldiers to get the egg of the sooty-turned bird that arrived every September here in Rapa Nui. Why the bird egg? Because the bird egg represents fertility, represents abundance, represents the cycle of life, which is the most important thing for our people. Every nature people on the earth is survival. survival of our people, right? So this is why the egg was the perfect representation of all of these important things that our ancestors needed back then. So the Hopumanu, the young warriors, in the age of my assistant over here, between 16 and 22 years, something like that, they were very, very well trained athletes, very good climbers, good swimmers, fishers, astronomers also. There were no random people. They were really, really excellent trained athletes. And their trainer was going to become the Tangata Manu if their soldier won the competition. So in Orongo, which is way over there, do you see those flat surfaces at the cliff, at the edge of the cliff? There's like flat surfaces. Those are the houses of Orongo, the ceremonial village. So every year in September, when the birds came back to Rapa Nui to nest on Motu Nui, Motu Iti and Motu Kao Kao, 3 little isles in Orongo, which we will see, the competition started. So the people came from Mataveri all together, not running, but making a big party. So they were coming, all the priests, the chiefs, the wives of the chiefs, the families, they would come here all together and then go on the edge to Orongo and then celebrate the beginning of the new cycle. Okay, just 5 minutes before we go to the village, we came from here. We were here in Anokau, right? And as I said, all the people, the families, the kings, the priests, they all came from here walking to Orongo. In Orongo, the people only lived here during the year around 2 to 3 months, right? A little bit before the competition and a little bit after the competition. So the bird, the egg they had to get was this one, the Manutara, the sooty tern. This bird came to these isles, Motu Nui, Motu Iti, Motu Kao Kao. Big isle, Motu Nui, small isle, Motu Iti, and pointy isle, Motu Kao Kao. So the competitors, they came from the Karikari, the cliff, 150 meters down and swam to Motu Nui, 1.5 kilometers to here. And they came to this place, which is called Kawae, which means jaw, right? Because it looks like a human jaw. This is the lowest point of Motu Nui. That's why it was a little bit easier to get on the island. Here, they had to wait for the egg between 3 weeks and 1 month on the island. Because the bird comes, the bird has to find a pair, the bird has to put the egg until the egg is ready. So the competition really was about survival, about the skill to survive by fishing, by collecting shells, by finding water around 1 month. And everybody was waiting here in Orongo every day to hear if someone found the egg, okay? And if I, Moana, found the egg, there is one rock on Motu Nui, a big rock, called Pukurangi Manu, the rock where we call the birds, okay? I get on the rock, I hold the egg, and I call Eutae, which means, hey people over there, I found the egg. Kabaru te puoko, which means, shave the head of who? Of my general, of my matatoa, who is later going to become the Tangata Manu. Why the shaved head? Like over here, like this guy, like him. He had the shaved head, right? Because shaved head in our religion is a sign of purity, pure spirit, right? Holiness. So he's the connection, the spiritual connection between Makemake, which is this one, our God, the representation of Makemake, the connection between Makemake and us, the people on Rapa Nui. That's the sign of Tangata Manu, right? He, later, the Tangata Manu, would become, after becoming the egg, the boss of Rapa Nui for 1 year. Religious chief, but also political chief. He would decide who gets the food, who gets the water. My enemies don't get water, don't get food. My friends get all the food, right? So that's how they try to make balance in Rapa Nui. The competition was held until the year 1868, because in 1864 the first French missionaries arrived to Rapa Nui. right? So they took 4 years to missionary all the Rapa Nui. And in 1868, all the Rapa Nui were Catholics, everybody. Because what they did was, during the last competition, they took Manurangi, the prince, by his hair, and cut the hair of Manurangi to show the Rapa Nui, our God is stronger than your God. That's how they turned all the Rapa Nui to the side of the Catholics. That's why no more Rapa Nui Tangata Manu competition was held after 1868. These houses in Oromo were all restored, all made new, right? Between 1975 and 1977. Local people, archaeologists, all worked together. Because Oromo has 55 rooms like this one. This was opened to show us how it's like inside, right? There used to be statues, paintings, carvings inside the houses. But there were many people who came here that stole the artifacts, but also the Rapa Nui traded for food, for clothes, because the Rapa Nui, as I already told you, were very, very poor long time ago, right? Poor in material, not poor in spirit. So the restoration also showed that there was one big moai inside of the houses. It's today in the British Museum in London. It's a 2.5 meter tall, 5-ton heavy, made of basalt. Did you go to the volcano yesterday, to Ranorodaku? Most of the moai are made of lapilito, right? Material of Ranorodaku. This moai I'm talking about, the Wielkanocna, is made of basalt. Are the same petroglyph of the birdman we saw in Ranokau on the rock. The same over there, but over 200. All the winners of the competition, how do you say winner in Italian? Tutti i vincitori over there on the rocks. This is the Hall of Fame, the collection of all the winners of the Tangata Manu competition. We call that place Matangarahu. This is really important. So, this is not a woman. 99.5% of the moai were men. Some were women, only very few. This moai is a replica of the moai in London, right? Moai Wielkanocna. So, why is it important? As I said, this moai was a connection between the moai cult and the Tangata Manu cult. Why? Because of the petroglyphs. This petroglyph and these are only found on this moai, no other moai. All the moai had petroglyphs on the back. For example, if I was a good fisherman, fishing hooks, fishing net, or I was a good astronomist, certain star constellations, so like my curriculum on my back, right? So this moai was very special because it represented the competition. The Tangata Manu, the birdman. This, some people say it represents the rainbow, others say it represents the belt that the Rapa Nui used. I think maybe the rainbow, right? And this represents the back and the bones, the hip bones, right? This is the Manutara, the bird that brought the egg. The owl, which is the scepter of the king. And also over here, do you know this? What is this? What does it look like?
Fish?
No. That's a vulva, a female vulva. You see? Not many men find this one. Not all the men find this one. You know this one? Yes, that's the clitoris, right there. And the vulva. It represents fertility, right? Obviously. So this is why this moai is very special and different to all the other moai in Rapa Nui. What do you think? Is it similar? Is it
More or less.
More or less, right? So this was also a support of the theory from the Norwegian Thor Heyerdahl. Maybe you heard about him. Thor Heyerdahl was an archaeologist and an expeditioner who wrote the book Kon-Tiki about his expedition, the Kon-Tiki expedition. He tried to prove that the Polynesians, our people, came from the east, and not from the west, as we said. So he went on a boat that he built with his colleagues from Peru and tried to get to Rapa Nui, but he didn't get here. He got 2,500 kilometers away from here, another island, right? Not Rapa Nui. But later, in 1955, he came to Rapa Nui and he also saw this, and he was like, I knew it. The Inca came to Rapa Nui, right? But we have another theory. Our people, we believe that the Rapa Nui sailed all the way to Peru and that they met in Peru, the Inca, right? And today we have actual, real proof that this happened. For example, the chicken. The chicken originated in Asia, right? In Melanesia, Micronesia and Micronesia, and our Polynesian ancestors always, when they traveled from island to island, they always had different animals: dogs, pork and chicken. Our national animal is the chicken, the rooster, right? So when they traveled from here to South America, because they were navigators, right? They were the masters of the ocean. They took the chicken with them. Also sugarcane. How do you say sugarcane in Italian? Do you know what it is? That. Yeah, sugarcane for water and for, you know, for like moisturizing. If there's no rain, you need water. Water, sugarcane, bananas, taro, and the chicken. So they went to Polynesia, to South America, and they exchanged knowledge, how to perfect the ahu, food, and or maybe genetics, right? So when they came back, they also brought the knowledge to perfect the ahu, the temple. This is why this ahu looks so perfect, like what we see at the Inca, right? And also they brought something very important, the sweet potato. This is why we call the connection between these two cultures Te Ara o Te Kumara in Rapa Nui, which means the road of the sweet potato, right? Because Te Ara o Te Kumara, because we still today, we use a lot of sweet potato, but we all know the sweet potato did not originate in Asia. It originated in South America, right? We use the taro, the ñam, uhi, manioca, which is different, but similar to the sweet potato, right? So this is the connection that we have between these two people. Also, our peak of our civilization, the highest point of our civilization, was around 1500, the year 1500, something like that, and the Inca around 1450. So it's really similar also, the time and the period where we were at our highest peak, right? So we think that the engineers of Rapa Nui met the engineers of the Inca and they created the perfect ahu, right? So what we see here is a not restorated ahu. So all of the ahu around the shore at some point in history were destroyed by the Rapa Nui because they had wars between the different tribes, and they also knocked over the Moai, right? Because if I attack your tribe, I'm smarter. I don't attack you directly. I attack your ancestors, your gods, your kings, topple them down, break the neck. So your spirit is weak, it's broken, and then I kill you and I eat you. Artists, right? Carvers, singers, painters, whatever. So I'm going to draw a picture of how this female Moai used to look once upon a time, right? In the 19th century, there was an American ship that came to Rapa Nui, and someone made a drawing of this Moai before it was destroyed. So I'm going to try to replicate it. It used to look something like this. It had two heads, one like this. You have this. Second head, this. Then go down. Chest, right? Chest like this. Down. Chest like this. And then the body. The arms like this. The arms go around the side and they meet down here. And this is where the fingers are. Right there. fingers. Can you see them? It's really hard because of the light, I know. And then there is the navel. The navel, the middle. You can see right here. And it used to have eyes like this. It used to have eyes here and the mouth here. And why we know it's a female moai? The vulva, right here, like this, here. Ta-da! Something like that, right?
Wow.
So the arms are here, arms are here, they go around like this. Arms, the female organ right here, the navel, the chest and the heads. So the statue used to have 2 heads. And because of the vulva, we know it is one of very, very few female moai that was found. Most of the moai on the Aho were men, male tribe chiefs, legendary warriors, but in general, very, very high members of society, right? But my master, my mother, she also told me that something else was used to represent the woman in the Moai cult, something different than the statues. Do you see those rocks over there? Some people call it the hat of the Moai, others call it the top knot, the hair, chignon. Also in Italian? No, in French. Chignon? How do you say it in Italian?
You can call it like that.
Yeah, chignon. Okay, the chignon, it's what we still call it today, pucao. But my mother, my master, she said, Moana, always think more than everybody else. Look ahead. So she said, what does pucao mean? She said, pu is the whole, cow in between legs. So maybe, only maybe, it's my mom's theory, right? Represents the female reproductive organ. Maybe. The fertility, right? So all of our ancestors, everything they created had significance, had meaning. Nothing was just for fun, right? So why take a big red rock all the way from Punapau, bring it here on top of the moai if it is just a hat or just a chignon? It has to have meaning, right? So my master, she said, think about it. The man, the moai, the pucao, his wife, right? It's a theory, right? Maybe. But it could be an explanation why they made the pucao and they brought it on top of the moai. Okay? So this was a female moai. The pucao maybe represented